This is the OTB Television Network, a service of Capital District Off-Track Betting.
Good morning and welcome to Racing Across America on this Thursday morning. I'm Seth Merrill. Thanks for joining me on today's show. Coming up, regular visits from our Thursday guests. Coming up a little later on, John DeSilva, racingwithbruno.com. We'll talk a little bit about New York racing this afternoon, get some thoughts perhaps on racing this weekend in New York, as well as the Hollywood Futurity, which is coming up on the weekend. See if John has any thoughts about that. Probably going to be the highlight of the stakes action on the weekend. 10:30, a little after 10:30, Dave Rodman from Laurel will join us. We'll look back at the two nice two-year-old stakes races they had there last Saturday. Get Dave's thoughts on the horses coming out of those two races, both the filly side and the male side. And we'll look at some racing this afternoon at Laurel as well. Just giving you some of the promotions here. I always like to remind you of those. Bet 50, Get 50 continues. New Capital Bets account holders. If you don't have a Capital Bets account so far, if you sign up now, first 50 you bet, Capital OTB puts $50 into your account. Free money there, nothing wrong with that. Lucky Saturdays here at the Clubhouse Racebook. I've told you about this all week long. Sounds like a lot of fun. Next 3 Saturdays, come down. There'll be drawings at the top of each hour, 1, 2, 3, and 4 p.m. 2 patrons get selected. 1 gets into the cash cube. As much money as you can pull down, funny money you can pull down, that gets totaled up, and then that patron will get a win, place, or show bet for that amount on the next race at Aqueduct. The other patron gets to spin the big prize wheel. So come down here for Lucky Saturdays, the 14th, the 21st, the 28th, the next 3 Saturdays. Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue in Albany. This coming Sunday, it's the live bankroll here at the Clubhouse Racebook. There will be a $500 bankroll hosted by my partner here on Loose on the Lead on Sundays, Steve Bick. He's also the host of Sirius and XM's At the Races. You hear that either via the internet or on your Sirius and XM radio, or rebroadcast here every morning on the network at about 6 a.m. Steve Bick will be playing the $500 bankroll this Sunday, December 15th, right here at the Clubhouse Racebook. Show up down here. 25 patrons will be randomly drawn to participate in the bankroll. Also remind you that the day after that, Monday, December 16th, our next day of boxing down here at the Clubhouse Racebook. It has been very well received so far. Show up down here. Doors open at 5:30. First bout at 6:30 here at the Clubhouse Racebook this coming Monday. Local clubs participate. I guess it's been very entertaining, a lot of fun. And again, that's this Monday night at the Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue in Albany. News from the past few days. There was a very interesting news story that confirmed a rumor that I had heard during Saratoga that had floated around then, but coming out of the South China Morning Post newspaper over, obviously, in South China, covers the Hong Kong racing circuit. And the Hong Kong International races, obviously last weekend, middle of last week, was the International Jockeys Challenge. And so encompassing and recapping some of that, one of the writers, Alan Aitken, who's a regular writer for the South China Morning Post on Hong Kong racing, wrote a little column about Dale Romans. Dale Romans was over there with Little Mike for the Hong Kong International races. And again, this was a rumor that I heard floating around during Saratoga. And hasn't necessarily been confirmed. I think Aitken is still putting it out there as kind of a rumor or a story, but a little more solidity to it. Dale Romans contemplating a move to Hong Kong. And it's interesting because Hong Kong is really a closed circuit. It's very different over there. When people point to Hong Kong and say, why can't we be more like them? And why? Look at all the money they make and the fans they get over there. A couple of days of racing a week, a couple of racetracks. It really has a monopoly on the gambling product for a big part. And it's a very closed system. They only have 24 trainers, and there's not a slot opening up. But as the article makes the point, the Hong Kong authorities are thinking about opening up another slot, going from a restriction of 24 trainers to 25 because they've added a couple of barns, and that 25th trainer might be Dale Romans. Again, it's not confirmed. He's still presenting it as something of a rumor, but it maybe solidifies a little bit. Again, a rumor that was kind of floating around during Saratoga. So we'll see what happens, but potentially it could give us a little rooting interest over here in the United States as we watch Hong Kong racing and see how Dale Romans could do on a day in and day out basis over there. It would be kind of fun. But again, it has now been floated out, article in the South China Morning Post, Dale Romans, potentially, still a rumor floating around out there, but potentially on the move to Hong Kong. News that's more definite, Will Take Charge will be back to race in 2014. That was a little bit up in the air as the owner was looking to solidify things on the breeding side, seeing what was going to be offered out there, but it now has been announced by owner Willis Horton that Will Take Charge will come back. He's quoted as saying, "I just like running the horse. I've never had this kind of horse. I thought now would be my time to go ahead and run him for another year. It was a hard decision. You got to look at all the aspects, what's best for the horse and best for the owner. The family wants to run him. You can't put a price on that, or I wouldn't know how to." A little further down in the article, he says, "We want to go back to the Breeders' Cup Classic. We're going to be taking care of the horse to get him back there in A1 shape." Excuse me, A1 shape. We'll probably run him 5 or 6 times next year. That's maybe a little bit disappointing. But that said, I don't know it's much different than any number of horses up in the handicap division. It's maybe a race or two less than you see these days, but not significantly so. But Will Take Charge will be back in 2014. And on that same note, Will Take Charge has arrived in Oaklawn with the string of Wayne Lukas horses. Oaklawn opens up on January 10th, but I am assuming that since the horses arrived there, probably has already opened for training. Will Take Charge arrives at Oaklawn, again with the Lukas contingent that included Strong Mandate and Sky Ring. So look for Will Take Charge to be back in 2014. It'll be interesting to see if they pick one of the races or a couple of races at Oaklawn to bring the horse back. I don't think showing up at Oaklawn necessarily says he'll run at Oaklawn, though. He's under Wayne Lukas's care. That's where Wayne Lukas is based in the wintertime. So that's why Will Take Charge is there. But it will be interesting to see what they pick as a first out start for Will Take Charge, but at Oaklawn Park currently. Speaking of Hong Kong international races, Jeremiah Engelhardt, went over there with King Creesa. We had Jeremiah on Racing Across America Live when we were up at Saratoga, live on the backstretch one morning, talking a little bit about King Creesa. He ran so well behind Wise Dan at Saratoga. That's the horse they took over to Hong Kong. Disappointed, was out there. We watched the race earlier this week on the show and was kind of out there competitive early and then faded late. But as Engelhardt says, it was an interesting experience, and there's an article in the Racing Forum by Dave Granick. I have it linked on Equidaily today as well, but you can pull it up. Interesting experience from a racing standpoint. It was very special to me to go over and see how the international scene is. And it's fun. I've talked with Anthony Mormino in here a bunch on the handicappers report. They really do things nicely over in Hong Kong. As I say, though, when we compare Hong Kong to American racing, there are some things that I think we've talked on, as I say, the handicappers report a lot about their website and the information that's available there. I think American racing could copy that. There are other things that are just very, very different. But as Engelhardt says, as a kid growing up, I thought of racing in the United States as the best in the world. My first experience outside of the United States, I see there are more pieces to the puzzle. So he was impressed with the way things were done over there in Hong Kong, and he makes the comment that he knows it's kind of the only game in town. But boy, looking at the technology that was available to the bettors and whatnot, so it's an interesting article just to pull up from that aspect, and if you want to read that. But then Engelhardt also talked a little bit about what they're going to do with King Creesa next year. They are strongly considering moving on to the Breeders' Cup Mile next year, but he would have to be supplemented to that. So, Engelhardt says, our plan is to see what we've got. If that means facing Wise Dan 2 or 3 times, maybe we'll look into that. It looks like they're looking for maybe a little bit of a tougher campaign this year. But again, looking to see what they have. So I'm assuming off of Hong Kong, they'll take a layoff and then go back. And early on, probably they'll face a little bit tougher and just kind of test the waters. But King Creesa, a very, very interesting and talented New York bred. It'll be fun to see him come back next year as well. They also talked about, in the article, Engelhardt's other big horse, the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Filly winner, moved up on the disqualification, Ria Antonia. If you've been reading it all, the owner is looking to head down to Fairgrounds this winter and face the boys, potentially move on to the Triple Crown Trail. I'll be interested to see how that works out. But it's noted in the article that at this point, Ria Antonia has moved to Belmont Park. She did so on Tuesday after spending 5 weeks turned out at an equine farm. Will return to training. It's expected sometime this week at Belmont, and then eventually after Christmas ship down to New Orleans. And again, the owner looking to face the boys down there. So it'll be fun to see. I think we'll know if they do take that route. I think we'll know after race number 1 whether that route continues or they move back in against the girls. But it'll be fun to kind of keep our eyes on Ria Antonio moving forward. Also wanted to bring up, I will bring up, we'll talk a little bit about this with, as I say, John DeSilva later, see if he has any thoughts, maybe Dave Rodman as well. But the entries did come out yesterday for the Cash Call Futurity at Hollywood Park. Talked a little bit about this past couple of weeks. Streaming on the weekend wins the Hollywood Starlet and only her second career start. There was a little buzz. Some of the folks out there were making comments about Streaming potentially throwing her hat in the ring for a 2-year-old filly eclipse. Again, Ria Antonia gets moved up on the disqualification in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Filly. So is that division in a little bit of flux where Streaming could step up? Very lightly raced, though, so far. But did she make a case? Some people seem to think so. Similarly, there's been some buzz about potentially Shared Belief getting into the running for a 2-year-old male eclipse with a good winning effort in the Hollywood Futurity on the weekend, on Saturday. So far, Shared Belief, couple of starts, wins a maiden special weight pretty nicely up at Golden Gate on October 19th, comes back in the Hollywood Preview, wins that pretty easily by almost 8 lengths for Jerry Hollendorfer. Shared Belief coming back this weekend. A nice field of 13, a very competitive field. Shared Belief, a nice post position, number 6 in the field of the Cash Call Futurity on Saturday. As I say, a very, very nice and competitive field. Tamorando also going out for Jerry Hollendorfer, coming off the win in the $100,000 Real Quiet right here at Hollywood Park. Bondholder for Doug O'Neill, 4th in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, won the front runner over at Santa Anita just prior to that. Candy Boy for John Sadler. That was a horse Jeremy Plonk mentioned to us yesterday as one he thinks has a little bit of a future. Tappet Rich comes back, who disappointed in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. I think this horse is eligible to rebound, though. Bob Baffert trainee that was a good maiden special, a very good, very impressive maiden special weight winner, middle of October at Santa Anita. A little bit of a disappointment, again, in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. But again, second career start, moving from maiden special to a probably the toughest grade 1 that will be held during the 2-year-old season. So I'd forgive it. Now, this isn't particularly any easier maybe than the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, though. As I say, this is a full competitive field. But I think now a little more experience for Tappet Rich. Tappet Rich is interesting in there. Shared Belief, as mentioned. We also have Poker Player, who a couple of starts back won the Bourbon at Keeneland. This one's interesting just in the fact that this is a horse that has started so far on the grass and the synthetic at Keeneland. So moving over to Hollywood, that is still a synthetic surface, but it's closer to dirt than most of the other surfaces from everything you hear and read. So Poker Player, maybe a little bit interesting there. Kobe's back out in the 13 post. That was a horse that won a stakes race in the first start of the career back in June right here at Hollywood. Subsequently had a layoff and came back to run second behind Shared Belief last time in that Hollywood Preview. So interesting field in here in the Cash Call Futurity. So we'll keep our eyes on that. Also on the Saturday card out at Hollywood as they're winding things down, not only for the season, but forever for Hollywood Park. Cash Call Futurity, Hollywood Turf Cup, and the Native Diver also on that card Saturday. Some nice stakes action out at Hollywood Park. All right, speaking of Hollywood Park, as we go to the first break, pulled up a little video. And over the next few days, we'll try to have some video over the next week or so of Hollywood Park, just kind of remembering some of the big events that have happened out there and whatnot. And I found this one interesting just to kick off the idea of throwing some Hollywood thoughts in there over the next week or so. I pulled up, as I say, just an interesting, quirky race. If you remember, and to be honest, until I pulled this up, it had completely slipped my mind. Then I remembered it. I certainly was in the game when this was happening. But for a lot of years, there was harness racing out at Hollywood Park. And as we go to the break, we're going to pull up Niatros with a world record at Hollywood Park. You're going to see Niatros start to finish back at Hollywood running a 1:52.1. The call is fun, but also in the background you can hear the crowd. And as they announce the 3/4 time, the crowd, and you can only imagine this is going back, I believe, to 1980. So you can imagine there was probably a pretty significant crowd there. You can hear him roar at the 3/4, and you can hear him start to roar just as he approaches the finish line, and that world record becomes within grasp. But again, we're going to see a world record by Niatros at Hollywood Park. Very interesting. And I just wanted to note, for those of you who don't remember Niatros, he's firmly in my mind. It was really the early part of my getting into the game, and I played a lot more harness races then. So Niatros to me was very special. Lifetime career record, 39 starts, 37 wins, over $2 million. At the time, this was phenomenal. All kinds of world records here on the records page I'm looking for. He also ran up at Saratoga. One of the losses of his career was right up here, and I actually was in somebody's wedding that day. I didn't get a chance to go, but it was essentially a non-betting event. Had a full field in there, and I'm wondering if the track was kicking themselves afterward, because subsequently down the stretch, Niatros, who was getting challenged in the stretch, felt the whip for probably the first time, jumped over the rail on the inside. And so Niatros was essentially a DNF, did not finish up here at Saratoga, one of the quirkier performances of his career. But again, we're going to go back to Hollywood Park as we go to the commercial break. As I say, Hollywood winding up. We're going to take a look at some of the races. This is just a quirky one to take a look at to kick things off with those looks. Niatros on the sulky side, harness racing at Hollywood Park, and a world record. When we come back from this break, we'll be joined by John DeSilva, racingwithbruno.com. Stay tuned.
First show, Craig Dell, Niatros, Rowdy Yankee, Father Duffy. The track record is 154. The world record is 152.4. We've got a perfect night for it. Not a breath of wind on either the backstretch or the stretch. And this field is now in motion. And there they go. Off and pacing Niatros, moving out for the lead. Sure Show along the rail. Craig Dell between horses. Rowdy Yankee and Father Duffy. Niatros takes command. The first eighth in about 13-2. Clubhouse turn. Niatros is there. 3 lengths. Sure Show follows second. Craig Dell third, Rowdy Yankee fourth, Father Duffy fifth, 27-4. Out of the turn and down the backstretch, Niatros leads by himself. Trying to keep up second, Sure Show. Gap of a length, Craig Dell third, Rowdy Yankee fourth, Father Duffy completes the field. Down the backstretch they roll. To the half-mile pole, that's Niatros. On top by a length and a half. Sure Show prompts the pace second. Let's see what they get to the half in. 56-3. Continuing down the backstretch, Niatros pacing a hole in the wind is there by 2. Sure Show is second. Remaining third, Craig Dell, Rowdy Yankee, and Father Duffy. They're jam-packed for action around the far turn. Niatros trying to make every pull a winning one. Now has 2.5. Niatros has 3/4. 1:24.3. The track record is history in the stretch with the crowd urging him on. Niatros has got 5. He's got 8. He's got 10. It's Niatros by himself. Sure Show at the rail. On the outside, Craig Dell. He's got to beat 152.4. He's really steamrolling. It's Niatros coming to the finish. Niatros, let's see Ladies and gentlemen, in the winner's circle, number 3, Niatros, bred in Pennsylvania by Niagara Acres, now owned in Orlando, Florida by the Clinton Galbraith, Niagara Acres, and the Niatros stable. He's a bay colt, 3 years old by Albatross from the Bye Bye Bird mare, Niagara.
I'm Mark Cassano. Join me Saturday mornings at 10 for Down the Stretch. We'll inform, analyze, and welcome in the biggest names in racing. So join me Saturday mornings at 10 for Down the Stretch, right here on the OTB Television Network.
Here in upstate New York, no one provides bettors with more wagering options than Capital OTB. Our network of branch and easy bet locations stretches from the mid-Hudson Valley all the way to the Canadian border and west to central New York. So whether you need to place a bet, fund your Capital Bets account, or watch the next big race, all the action is just around the corner. A full list of our branch and easy bet locations can be found online at capitalotb.com. Capital OTB, the better and most convenient choice for wagering in upstate New York.
I'm Steve Bick, inviting you to join me Sunday, December 15th at the Clubhouse Racebook. I'll be handicapping the day's races live and managing a $500 bankroll for 25 lucky patrons. To be part of the bankroll team, sign up at the Clubhouse Sunday by 1:30. We'll see you then, and let's win together.
Wagering at CapitalOTBBet.com is as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. Capital Bet TV, the fastest and easiest online wagering experience where you can monitor 5 different tracks simultaneously. 2. Capital Bet Express. Its straightforward program layout and interactive handicapping information lets you build your wager quickly and efficiently. And 3. Capital Bet Pro, designed especially for the professional horse player. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today.
I'm Anthony Mormino. Join me weekdays at 9 for the Handicappers Report. We'll handicap the top tracks across the country and help you prepare for the day in racing. That's the Handicappers Report, weekdays at 9, only on the OTB TV network.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. Thursday morning means a visit from John DeSilva of RacingWithBruno.com. Good morning, John.
Good morning. How's everything?
Very good. And just give folks a little update. What's the weather look like down your way?
It is sunny. It's cold, but it is sunny. You know, we don't have much wind. Hopefully, I think the track will be fast after yesterday since it was listed good. So we should have a nice day of racing, see if the inner track continues to play like it always does.
Yeah, and give me some of your thoughts on that. I mean, obviously, you're a longtime watcher of the New York racing scene, so you've been following the inner track for a long time. My thoughts, I was on with Bick yesterday on his radio show, and he said, what do I look for on the inner track? And one thing I look for, I love Chucky Lopez on the inner track because I love a guy who's aggressive, gets out there. I think the track is very good for speed. So if I can get a speed horse in Chucky Lopez, there's one of the things I look for over the inner track. Are there any angles you follow?
Well, the one thing about with Chucky Lopez, you have to watch out for him for 2 things. Not only speed, but if he has a horse that's a little iffy, you're not going to get anything out of him. Okay, because you saw the one horse yesterday he rode who basically got eased, and then the horse wasn't banned off. The horse just walked off because he just felt something. So Chucky's at the point of his career where if he feels something, don't expect anything out of him. So take that into your handicapping as well.
Yeah, and that can be frustrating at times. There's no question about it. But otherwise, any angles, anybody you follow? Well, Irad Ortiz, I think, is going to be interesting again. He was good there last year. I think he's going to be one to follow. But what are some of the angles you look at? I'm
definitely going to be looking at both Ortiz brothers, because Jacobson, all his new acquisitions, going to be very interesting. But let's look at these bugs. We got Esquivel, we got Franco, and we got Strandberg, who, if you look at what she does, at least she's aggressive on the front end. I mean, she sent the one long shot out there yesterday, went as far as she can. She wasn't pushing, let the horse run on its own, just ran out. At least someone like her, I'm not saying she's better than Julissa Laredo, obviously, but I think she realizes that in the inner track, you have to be aggressive in the front end, and that might be the type of long shot apprentice jockey you may want to follow. go.
Yeah, definitely, because I always like when apprentices are aggressive. I think there's no strategy there. If they just go out and press the pedal to the metal, then their inexperience gets mitigated a little bit. So I like that, but I also, as I said earlier, I think speed is very dangerous on the inner track. Speaking of the inner track, let's get some thoughts for this afternoon. You've got a few for us to take a look at. We'll kick off in race number 2 today. It's a maiden claimer at the 25 level, 2-year-old fillies going 1.70 miles.
I mean, this is a weird race, the maiden claiming going 1.70 for 2-year-olds, because you look at your morning line favorite, which is number 1, Rock Me Mama, Top Fletcher. First time dirt, could be anything. I mean, for this horse to be dropping at this level for dirt for the first time, you just have to wonder, are they really trying to win, or are they just trying to get rid of the horse? And this is a horse that's going to get over bet, so I want to try to beat it. And to me, a horse who fits that would be number 4, Golden Annie. The Keneally trainee ran going 2 turns at Keeneland in October, finished well to be beaten only a length, hasn't been seen since then, comes to New York, drops 25,000, but with the speed that normally happens at these 2-year-old races where a lot of them are trying 2 turns for the first time and may tire first time out, at least this horse can come from off the pace, and I think at 4-1 it's pretty decent value.
Yeah, Keneally Alvarado 4-1, as you say, 4-1 makes that one certainly attractive. So race number 2, the number 4 horse Golden Annie. Let's shift our attention now out to race number 4, state bred maiden race. Maiden tags at 35,000. Again, these are New York bred 2-year-old fillies. They will go 3/4 of a mile.
This race was driving me crazy because you could go in so many different directions here. I mean, your morning line favorites talked to me. Michael Gorham did run second last time out, running pretty well, now coming back at $35,000 level. I'm not sure, though, this is 3-1. I think it's going to be lower. The outside horses, Maybe's Fortune, Lucky Luciano could be interesting. But to me, in a situation like this, go with the stranger. And I'm going to go with number 3, Henry Scal. Nick Gessler, I like him as a trainer. You know, he's had a pretty good year with limited stock, winning 22%. I mean, he's definitely one who knows what he's doing when it comes to horses. Of the young trainers we have here, I think he's done the best so far. This horse has been working pretty steady, gets Eddie Castro, adds Lasix, gets nice inside post position, and you may not get 10-1. I'll be thrilled if I get 10-1, but anything close to that, I think, is definitely tremendous value. Yeah,
Essler's a guy who's kind of hit my radar screen really just within the past few weeks, but a nice high percentage. What's the background on him?
He's from England. He was an assistant trainer for a couple of different people. He was actually the one who worked on Flat Out before Flat Out, when he had all his foot problems, he had that layoff. He was one who would ride Flat Out regularly, worked on him to get him back healthy, and really helped him get back to the Greatest Stakes Company before he went to the Belmont Barn. So to me, this is a tremendous horseman who knows what he's doing, and I think this is the type of guy who, with his background, he should do very well once he gets better stock.
Yeah, and again, so far he's got a decent percentage, but again, a limited sample because he's just starting out. But it could be interesting to follow him during this inter-track meet. All right, let's go out to ninth race today. A B-level claimer, $16,000 tags, 3-year-olds and up. They're going to go 1 mile.
And this is a situation where when you're going a mile, you have the short run into the clubhouse turns. You want to make sure you get into position. So obviously an inside post position would help, having tactical speed, and I'm looking at number 4, River Boss, who won at this level in an off-the-turf race going a 1-turn mile at Aqueduct last time out. Now you're going from Castellan to Marat, same agent, Matt Muzakar, of course. But to me, this is a horse who I think with his tactical speed will be very dangerous, and Bruce Brown did win yesterday. I think he's primed to have a very nice Aqueduct in a track meet, so he's definitely one of these trainers who might take a step up this year, because Bruce Brown always respected as a good trainer, but I think he's priming himself to have a very good Aqueduct win the track meet, and he might be a trainer to look out for, especially at prices. Yeah,
and I always say this on the handicapping show. This is an angle I like. A horse that essentially is coming out of the same race condition-wise as last time, won last time. Now, as you say, it was an off-the-turf event, so there's a change there. But it was essentially the same 16B, won that one. Why not again today? And if you get that 8-1 morning line, I think that's just an absolute bonus.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's 2 turns for the first time on the dirt for this horse. He's done 2 turns on the grass, but never on the dirt. But if you're going to get 8-1, it's worth it. If it's 2-1, it's a different story. But 8-1, why not?
Yeah, absolutely. All right, John, let's take a look at some of the action from last weekend and use that to kind of look forward to this weekend as well. I wanted to toss out there race we haven't had a chance to look at so far earlier this week, but the highlight of that Claiming Crown down at Gulfstream on Saturday, the Claiming Crown Jewel $200,000 purse. These are former claimers. They must have raced for a claiming price of $35,000 or less since January 1st, 2012. We're going to watch the number 1 Nevada Kid get it done for trainer Nick Zito. Nice horse that has a lot of early speed and took control of this race early. Wins off by over 2 lengths at 5-1. Again, for Nick Zito. This was a New York-based horse for much of this year. Prior to that, had run down at Gulfstream decently last season. Gets it done here. We're watching the stretch run. And, John, I'll let you comment on this race a little bit, but then also we can fold it in because just prior to this race, Nevada Kid had run second to Sliver and Onions, and Sliver and Onions is entered in this weekend's Queens County down at Aqueduct.
Well, the first thing we have to say is Nevada Kid stole this race. I mean, he was able to go out there, set relaxed fraction, 24 and change, 48 and change. I know Gulfstream has Trackist, and I looked at the Trackist numbers, and the peak mile per hour Nevada Kid ran that day was 39.3. That means nobody was putting pressure early, nobody was pushing, and it was similar to what happened in the third race, the Carolina Lizard, who was, I think, also did 39.3. There was no pushing early. When you get to relax like that and have that much energy, you're going to get away with it, which is what Nevada Kid did. In terms of the future, I mean, I don't know if he's a stakes winner per se. I mean, he might be one of these high claimers, allowance type of horses, but if you leave him alone on the lead, as we saw here, you have to give him credit. I'm just shocked that Bernie the Maestro didn't put some more pressure on there, or a couple of the other horses who look to have speed, but as we started Sterling talked about in the past, sometimes you have to wonder about these jockeys. Where are their clocks in the head? Why aren't they more aggressive?
Yeah, as we've said a number of times, it just makes you scratch your head. There's no question about it. And as you mentioned, Bernie the Maestro, the disappointment on the day for the Ramseys, Bernie the Maestro coming out of a stakes win at Indiana most recently. So you thought that horse was going to run better. Finishes, in their 6th as the 9-5 favorite. Not that Ramsey didn't have a decent day. Won a couple of those Claiming Crown races. So the Ramsey juggernaut does continue.
Yeah, I mean, with Bernie the Maestro, I mean, he's had a tremendous year. I mean, I was shocked, but sometimes they do jockey switches like they've done. I mean, had Castellano riding the horse, I think, for the first time. Sometimes certain jockeys just don't fit certain horses, or they might let it get to their head thinking, I got such a good horse that it's just going to let me go and do whatever I want, and that doesn't always happen.
Yeah, and with the pace, that's always what I think. I think some jockeys think, well, I'm on Secretariat in this race, so I can just loaf back here. But as you say, when you get out there and you can set those easy fractions, even if you got Secretariat back there, sometimes the horse on the front is a little hard to reel in. John, let's just touch on also that Queens County, as they say, again, Sliver and Onions beat Nevada Kid last time out. Sliver and Onions is in. Short field, there's only 5 in there this weekend. Spot City Fever also in there, coming off a couple of wins most recently. Competitive race, but only a field of 5. Not super exciting, but Saturday's Queens County. Your thoughts?
I mean, he looked tremendous, winning last time out. Now he's going a mile and 1/8. He broke his maiden at Saratoga at this distance. I'm a little surprised that Ortiz picked up the mount instead of Cornelio. I know Manny Franco rode him last time out, but I guess Hushin didn't like the way he rode him 2 back, which is why he decided to go with somebody different. But Sliver and Onions, if he could just rate behind Percussion, and if Spot City Fever decides to go out there and press Percussion, which I think is going to happen, because Jacobson has Don Dulce probably to pick up the pieces, but the ground-saving trips, Sliver and Onions will be very tough here. But like I said, if the race sets up, you have to look at Don Dulce as well.
And John, as I was looking, I saw the Jacobson horse in there, and I harkened back earlier on the handicappers report. My partner Jeff Carl was looking at Aqueduct for today, and there was a horse in the 7th race, and I wonder if you have any inside info on this. We found it funny. There's the Jacobson entry in the 7th race this afternoon at Aqueduct. The 1A is Point Taken. Point Taken last time out was racing for David Jacobson and drawing away, was claimed out of that race. Now runs for Michael Dubb and Company, but still for David Jacobson. That's kind of strange.
Well, that horse would not be running because he ran that day and then got claimed. And entries had already been taken for the 12th, so that horse will be scratched.
Okay, all right. Now that makes a little more sense, because that was a little bit strange with Jacobson being the trainer prior to the claim, still after the claim, but there may just be a paperwork situation. All right, John, before we let you go, I wanted to get some thoughts. Probably the highlight of the stakes action on the weekend is going to be the Hollywood Futurity, as Hollywood wraps up for all time. The Grade 1 Hollywood Futurity, a $750,000 purse, mile and a 16th, field of 13, and I said at the top of the show, a very nice field. Tamarindo, Bondholder, Tappet Rich, and of course, Shared Belief. What are some of your thoughts on the Hollywood Futurity?
Tremendous race. I mean, I'm hoping, and I think they will keep this race in some form at Los Alamitos next year, what I've been reading this week, but you have a lot of interesting horses, some nice developing horses here, and people go look at Tappet Rich. You know, they saw he ran in Breeze Cup Juvenile. He had that weird trip where he was wide, and he still finished pretty well, be 3 1/4 lengths. I'm just confused because this horse, after a nice work of 46 3, did unbaffled-like work. So slow, and I know you're trying to get this horse to relax, but you just have to wonder, though, what's going on here, because this horse already showed that he could relax in this, even though he broke slowly. You just have to wonder, is there more going on that we don't know about? And to me, at the price this horse is going to go after, I would love to try to beat it. I mean, you take a horse like Tamarindo, who I think could be very tough in here, has a nice victory in the Real Quiet, has 2-turn experience as well. It has nice inside post position. I think Bondholder could improve for Doug O'Neill. Share Belief, trying 2 turns for the first time, but working bullets would be probably close to the pace. And even Kobe Sprack. You got Joel Rosario, even though it's an outside post position. It's not exactly what you want, but with Rosario, you could do very well. But look at some of these horses. They had the Future Book. You had Tappet Rich, went off at 25-1. Tamarindo, 42-1. Shared Belief, 32-1. Kobe's back, 84-1. If you bet any of those horses in the first Future Book and they happen to win that race, all of a sudden that horse in Vegas is going to those odds drop tremendously. And if you bet them early, you got some great value going into next year.
Yeah, and also because as opposed to the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, the horses coming out of the Hollywood Futurity over the past 10, 20 years have actually done pretty well in the Triple Crown races. So it's a little bit more of an indicator as well. All right, John, certainly appreciate the visit. As always on Thursday morning, we'll remind folks that they can find your work on racingwithbruno.com. Good luck this afternoon. We'll talk to you next week.
Definitely. By the way, I'm now doing Fairgrounds for racingwithbruno.com as well.
Excellent, because Fairgrounds is absolutely on my radar. I think wintertime, I actually have more action in the wintertime. I like Tampa, I like Oaklawn, I like Fairgrounds, and so now that you've added that to the mix, certainly folks should go over and visit. Again, racingwithbruno.com. Thanks, John.
You got it. Take care.
John DeSilva, racingwithbruno.com. We'll take our next break. When we come back, it'll be Dave Rodman from Laurel Park. Stay tuned.
Missed one of our TV shows? No worries. Now you can catch all your favorite programs online. Simply log on to CapitalOTV.com and click on the YouTube link at the bottom of the homepage. And look for our new podcast coming soon. CapitalOTV.com. Log on today.
Fascinated by the world of horse racing? Interested in honing your handicapping skills? Class is in session. Night school, Monday nights. Easy to access online. It's free, interactive, and informative for the casual and serious race fan. Horse Player Now Buzz. Live horses to watch emailed to you daily. Our eyes, your prize. Night School in the Buzz. Visit horseplayernow.com for details.
Each morning on the OTB TV network, you get the very best in horse racing programming. Weekdays begin with the Handicappers Report, where professional handicappers share their selections and analysis of the day's racing. Followed by Racing Across America, a daily conversation with racing personalities from around the country. Saturdays include Down the Stretch, where Mark Casano speaks with the biggest names in racing. And Sunday mornings, it's Loose on the Lead, where Steve Bick and I offer news and a unique lineup of weekly guests. All here on the OTB TV network.
Funding your Capital OTB bet account is as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. Easy Money. Clearly the fastest and easiest method of depositing funds into your account. Make deposits or withdrawals in just minutes. 2. Green Dot Money Pack. Gives you instant access to your funds. Green Dot Money Packs are available at thousands of retailers nationwide. And 3. MasterCard Visa. Simply click on the link from the funding page, enter your account information, and fund your account. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today.
This is Steve Beck. Join me Tuesday through Saturday here on OTB TV for At the Races, my Sirius XM daily news magazine of the thoroughbred industry. Handicapping, interviews, analysis, everything you could want. 6 a.m. OTB TV.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. Again on Thursday, it means a regular visit from Dave Rodman of Laurel Park. Good morning, Dave.
Hey, Seth, good morning.
And for folks who are going to play Laurel this afternoon, what's the weather look like down your way?
Expect short post parades. Of course, the big chill set in. The high of about 28, and that means the real field temperature is probably around 18, 20. Probably going to be the warmest part of the day coming up here real soon. But the track is fast, plenty of sunshine.
And I asked you last week, and I don't think it was definite. I know they've ended turf racing in New York. Are you off the turf for the rest of the season down at Laurel?
Yes, we're done with the turf. They were taking some of the rail configurations down yesterday and packing them away for the winter.
Yeah, it's that time of year. And again, anytime you can get into December, it's a bonus as it was. So we made it. Before we get to this afternoon, Dave, I want to go back. We've talked about it a little bit earlier this week. Of course, 8-2 Fast to Catch won a nice stakes, the Broad Brush down there last Saturday. But on either side of that were a couple of 2-year-old races that we haven't really taken a close look at yet. I wanted to get your thoughts. 2-year-old girls, 2-year-old boys coming out of these stakes last Saturday at Laurel. Will they be horses that we may want to keep our eyes on going forward? First up last Saturday, the Gin Talking $100,000 purse for the 2-year-old fillies. They're going 7 furlongs. Down the stretch, a horse you and I talked about on the show last Thursday in prep for this race. Mamdouha goes out for Kieran McLaughlin and Shadwell. Mamdouha came in off a couple of starts earlier in the career debut, a second at Monmouth. Followed that up, breaking the maiden at Aqueduct. On the numbers, it looked like Mamdouha probably had a nice future. Even money on the morning line went off 70 cents to the dollar. And as we see here coming down the stretch, it is Mamdouha getting it done. How impressive was this horse?
Well, you did show her on your program last week in prep for the show, and indeed with trouble in the race, she managed to overcome that. And again, another professional-looking win. I think she got maybe a little bit lazy late in the stages, but at time was 126.93 for 7 furlongs, and a big, big difference between her and the boys later today when you show that race with joint custody. He went 125 and change for the final time for 7 furlongs. So comparing them, I mean, it obviously looks like the boy race is a stronger race, but she's going to be a useful filly. Unfortunately, the 5 Respectful Wishes, who I thought would make the lead, did, but she went wrong in late stretch. I mean, she went wrong before that and then faded, and then she was pulled up in late stretch there. So what looked like a good race between those two fillies on paper really just kind of turned into a runaway for Mamdouha for Shadwell Stable and Kieran McLaughlin.
And clearly, as you say, Respectful Wishes, much of a disappointment for Jerry Robb, but we will turn now to that boys race a little later on. The Marylander, these were 2-year-old, again, males going 7 furlongs for $100,000. Jerry Robb gets it done in here at joint custody. Again, another horse we thought was interesting. It was going to be fun to watch what Jesse the Marine did, having bounced up Beyer-wise in the prior stakes race pretty significantly to win at 35-1. Jesse the Marine was one that was going to be fun to keep our eyes on. Down the stretch, we will see it. It's going to be the number 7, however, joint custody for Jerry Robb, who has some nice 2-year-olds this year. Gets it done. Running second will be Jesse the Marine. Jesse the Marine went off as the 6-5 favorite. The winner, joint custody, went off at 5-2. But again, I think another nice 2-year-old for Jerry Robb.
Yeah, I thought this race was fairly a little bit deeper maybe than the Philly race as far as the talent goes. Jesse the Marine last time out benefited from a tremendous duel with a bunch of 2-year-olds who had something to prove early in the race and got up the rail to win, though. It was a dead rail to win. And he ran okay, all things considered, Jesse the Marine. I think he's going to be all right, and he'll eventually go on to win some sprints. But joint custody with a 23-change opening quarter didn't look like he was going that fast, so he's got good, natural relaxable early speed, and I thought the race was kind of stolen in the opening quarter to half mile there by Wesley Ho, who we expected joint custody perhaps to rebound. He had been beaten by Jesse the Marine, but there was plenty of speed outside of him in that particular race, and they just tried to school him and see if he could rate a little bit, and he just got caught in a shuffle there on the dead inside and inside of some heavy speed. But this time they used his speed, which is the biggest tactical advantage, to their good for trainer John Robb. So a disappointment for Respectful Wishes in the filly race for the Robb barn, but a rebound with joint custody here in the Marylander Stakes. And again, the time was faster than the fillies, and it wasn't really even close. 125 and change for the 7/8.
Yeah, so nice 2-year-old to watch going forward. In fact, Jesse the Marine, I think, is going to be fun to watch going forward, too.
Yeah, he's going to be okay. I'm kind of becoming a horse. I just want him to get into a sprint maybe with some speed in front of him, and that kind of rubber stamps that horse that we've talked about several times on the show, Interchange. I'm waiting for him to come back and run. That's the horse that had run a couple of times against the talented Jesse the Marine.
Yeah. All right. Let's shift our attention now to this afternoon at Laurel Park. You've got a few for us to think about today. We'll kick things off in race number 3. Third race is a claiming event with tags of 6,000 to 6,250. Fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and up. They'll go 7 furlongs.
Well, as I speak, I'm actually sitting here at the track, and I see they're kind of working on the rail a little bit here on this cold day. The rail's kind of not been the place to be here at Laurel, generally speaking. In some cases, completely dead. And on the inside, we have Maxine's Pride, who looks like the filly to beat. But there's a filly named, or mare called Ganza, who's finished second and third a few times at this track that could be tough. But I'm looking maybe at a price here for number 5, Printastic Cat, to make it back-to-back at Laurel. She won going a mile last time, shortens up to 7/8. She doesn't really have to have that early lead, and made a move into what was a kind of a decent, sharp middle pace there in the Maryland Million Distaff. And I think she's just in good form right now. Kind of an in-the-money kind of horse there, Printastic Cat, for trainer Tim Salzman. And also riding Printastic Cat, I believe, will be Xavier Perez. I want to double-check and make sure I've got the right rider on my form versus program. Indeed, the X-Man, he's been kind of hot here this last 7 to 10 days. They won a race yesterday, and he's getting in some good barns. Kind of a rejuvenated Xavier Perez here. Had a slow beginning of the meet.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, the number 1 horse, interesting, Maxine's Pride. I just bring it up because it goes out for Jamie Ness and Midwest Thoroughbreds, and I bring it up because Jamie Ness, with the opening at Tampa, where he's done so well over the past few years, said something to the effect of, gee, the foal crop's down, and, for me, a claiming trainer, it's kind of tough, and so I'm not coming in as loaded. And I think the opening couple of days, he won like 4 or 5. And I wondered, is Jamie playing a little close to the vest? It seems like, come on, Jamie, down there at Tampa.
He's got a horse, actually, I can't remember the name, I think running Saturday at Tampa, who ran in a sprint race here at Laurel first off the claim. I don't have my computer open. And actually, there's a Ness Midwest horse that ran, I think it's Cactus Sun, running Saturday at Tampa, that I'm going to keep my eye on. That horse ran huge here for Midwest and Ness, and I figured they would take him to Tampa to keep him on the turf, and they sure did.
All right, we'll take a look at that one on Saturday. Continuing this afternoon at Laurel, race number 6 today, an optional claimer with a claiming tag of 40,000. Condition and non-winners are one other than. These are 2-year-olds. They're going to go 7 furlongs.
Well, Mr. Rover just seemingly doesn't want to win. He's run second 3 times. I like Wise Minister in here. A horse who improved with the addition of blinkers and the stretch out to the mile for trainer Richard Small. This is homebred Fitzhugh LLC, PA bred, and I think he's got even more room for some improvement. If any 2-year-old's going to move forward here, it's this colt by Curlin. We saw a nice Curlin colt win first out, training Shug McGahee earlier this week. A lot of people are kind of buzzing about. This horse settled well, even with the addition of blinkers, had to wait for a little room. Got to the outside in the clear on the track and had a little kick late. Good 13-1 final furlong. Doesn't sound spectacular, but that's pretty good for the mile run here for a 2-year-old at Laurel. I think he's okay. He's moving forward, Wise Minister.
Yeah, and as you say, Mr. Rover on the numbers is going to attract a lot of attention. But when they get stuck in that bridesmaid role, you just, I have no problem going against the other one that looks a little bit dangerous is King Racer for Hugh McMahon coming out of that allowance win last time. All right, let's finally shift out to race number 8 this afternoon, another optional claiming event. Claiming tags in this one, 32,000. The condition, non-winners of 3 other than 3-year-olds and up, they will go 3/4 of a mile.
Well, the rail has not been the place to be most times here at Laurel this meet. Sometimes extremely dead, and a good case of that was November 27th. The Cherokee Artists and Perilous Indian both beat Attractive Ride. It was bogged down in that deep inside. Well, Attractive Ride's drawn that rail now for the 3rd consecutive time. But I'm thinking maybe today, maybe just a different scenario here. Looks like they're kind of working on the inside. Whether or not that really holds true for this afternoon, is the inside being better, I don't know. But I do know Attractive Ride just ran a monster race last time out, beating only 2 lengths, 5th on the worst part of the track, and he can settle off the pace. He can rate. He's beaten one of his rivals here, Everybody's Daddy, who could be tough again today. This is a wide open and tough race. It's part of the pick 4 and the pick 5, the jackpot. Now we guarantee $100,000 to a single unique 50-cent ticket. We've upped that guarantee to $100,000 for the guarantee today on the jackpot. So a race where you might want to spread, but if you see early in the day the rail's doing better, maybe take a chance with a single there on the inside.
All right, I read about that just within the past 24 hours. $100,000 guarantee now on that 50-cent pick 5 out at Laurel.
Yeah, the wagering increased on it yesterday because of that too, about pretty much more than doubled really.
Yeah, well, put $100,000 out there. The 50-cent increment, people are going to jump in. Certainly sounds attractive. Dave, certainly appreciate the visit, as always, on Thursdays. Good luck this afternoon. We'll talk to you next week.
Okay, Seth, take care.
Thanks a lot. Dave Rodman from Laurel Park. Take a quick break. When we come back, I'll quickly say goodbye. Stay tuned. Racing Across America continues.
I'm Jeff Carl. Join me Saturdays and Sundays at 9 for the Handicappers Report. We'll handicap the top tracks across the country and help you prepare for the weekend in racing. That's the Handicappers Report, weekends at 9, only here on the OTB TV network.
The future of online betting is here, and only at the all-new CapitalOTBBet.com. With a newly designed and engineered internet wagering platform, enhanced video streaming, additional funding options, and 3 new individual wagering opportunities, CapitalOTBBet.com delivers a state-of-the-art wagering experience found nowhere else in horse racing. Combine that with our all-new mobile website. You have 2 of the most powerful, innovative, and advanced wagering platforms available today. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today.
Hey, race fans, head down to the all-new Clubhouse Racebook and get in the game. With live horse racing on more than 250 flat-screen TVs, state-of-the-art wagering terminals, fantastic food and drinks, an amazing Vegas-style atmosphere with seating for nearly 900 of your closest friends. Conveniently located at 711 Central Avenue, right off Exit 5 of I-90 in Albany, the Clubhouse Racebook is the better choice.
Using CapitalOTBBet.com is as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. Simply log on with your username and password from the homepage. 2. Fund your Capital OTB account through our Easy Money, Green Dot, or Visa MasterCard options. And 3. Place your bet on one of our 3 easy-to-navigate wagering platforms, Capital Bet TV, Capital Bet Express, or Capital Bet Pro. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today.
I'm Steve Bick, inviting you to join me Sunday, December 15th at the Clubhouse Racebook. I'll be handicapping the day's races live and managing a $500 bankroll for 25 lucky patrons. To be part of the bankroll team, sign up at the Clubhouse Sunday by 1:30. We'll see you then, and let's win together.
And welcome back. Just a couple of minutes left here in this edition of Racing Across America. I mentioned earlier on Saturday, Hollywood Futurity. That is going to probably highlight the stakes action across the country. A couple of nice stakes races also on that Hollywood card. A little earlier will be the Hollywood Turf Cup. Southern California really has almost a monopoly. I mean, some of the other jurisdictions run marathon turf races, But out in Southern California, it really all year long, they have plenty of turf racing, 1.5 miles or longer. Hollywood Turf Cup is part of that scenario. Turf Cup Grade 2 event, $250,000, 1.5 miles. Short field, there's only 6 entered. I think Tamarain is probably going to go off as the favorite. Gary Stevens on board. Gary Stevens was on board this horse 2 starts back at Kentucky Downs, going 1.5 miles in the Kentucky Turf Cup. Won that day. Last time out was in the Canadian International. Again, 1.5 miles on the turf. That was the one won by Joshua Tree. Hyper ran second. Joshua Tree was winning the Canadian International for the third time. I don't know if it was consecutive, actually. But that Woodbine course was very strange, a yielding course, as it is oftentimes at that time of year. So I would go back maybe to the Kentucky Downs race, but certainly Tamarain is a horse that is well suited to the 1.5 miles. Gary Stevens back on board, having won on this horse 2 races back. So that race, again, short field is 6. I just like these marathon turf events, though, so that one's going to be fun. And then the Native Diver on the Hollywood card, Grade 3 event, $150,000 purse, 3-year-olds and up, going 1.8 miles. This one has a field of 9. And this one is a skull buster. I'm going to be interested to watch this race and just see how it unfolds. You have horses like Drill from Bob Baffert, who it seems like they're more sprint met with this horse. They stretch out to 1.8 miles on Saturday. Maybe they think there's a little bit of a class edge in here, potentially, because there's just a number of stories in here that, as I say, make it a head scratcher. Setsuku runs in this race, who I think will or could attract some attention, other than the fact that this horse has been off since March of 2012. That day ran second in the Big Cap, the Santa Anita Handicap, behind Ron the Greek. So this is a horse that has some very good performances showing. 2011 was second in the Big Cap behind Game On Dude. So Setsuku really might be the class, but off a layoff from March of 2012, that one's kind of questionable. Here, the Ghost is a 3-year-old for Jerry Hollendorfer that was interesting earlier this year, and going back to last year even, as a 2-year-old and then into the early 3-year-old season. Then went to the sidelines for an extended period, came back right here at Hollywood early in November. Sprint, ran second. Here, the Ghost could be kind of interesting. A lightly raced 3-year-old, second start back, stretching back out. But as I say, a little bit of a head scratcher. I mean, you're kind of projecting a little crystal ball handicapping. The horse is probably going to attract the attention as Rousing Sermon for Jerry Hollendorfer. Rafael Bejarano on board, won a state-bred stakes race here at Hollywood last time. But again, class-wise, how does this one stack up to some of the other horses? It's a very, very interesting and confusing handicapping puzzle in the Native Diver, but I will be interested to see how it is run and who winds up being the favorite and who winds up winning. All right, that's Hollywood Park. Nice stakes action this coming Saturday. Going to wind things up. Racing Across America 4 this Thursday morning. We're here every Monday through Friday from 10 to 11 a.m. Right before us is the Handicappers Report. Jeff Carl and I were on this morning looking at Fairgrounds and Aqueduct. Hopefully we gave you some good ideas. Cash some tickets this afternoon. We'll see you again tomorrow morning.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.